big shoot. Yeah, we've got questions.
I got big
We're going to
questions.
get some answers. We'll get some answers. We might not get them all, but we'll get some.
You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna bring Scott down here. We're gonna have one of those backyard fire cigar scotch conversations.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's what we're gonna do. All right, folks, get comfortable. We got our brother at arms, Scott Wolter. We're just getting everything fired off. Ops Lens is picking us up right now. We're hot on Mojo 50 Radio. We're hot on the YouTube. We're hot on the Facebooks, on Roku, and
all of those fun places.
all the fun
Everywhere
places
you want to look.
right now.
And if we're not on something that you want to look at, let us know. We'll see what we can do.
We'll make it happen.
Minute 45, Rocky.
All right. Scott, I'm just doing this. There it is. Boom. Whoop. All right. Oh, I'm slacking a little bit here, brother. Okay, copy, post, share. Boom. Bam. Paste. Post. Boom. All right. And one more time. Boom. Page.
I got to figure out some more commercials. This commercial runs twice, right in a row, right in front of our show.
What?
And I'm not sure why. It's a 15-second commercial. It may be because it's the only 15-second commercial we have.
What about Romika? Where's that at?
I don't have. Well, that's out there, but it's a minute.
You should automatically set up Romika to play right before our show.
Probably.
Okay, so we got
45
possible
seconds.
sound. Okay, so that was good. And questions.
Really big shoot.
I got it for our show. Okay, sorry. There it is. Okay, so got it.
All right.
All right, we're all set. Welcome, everybody. Everybody there watching on video, welcome to the program. Super excited about tonight's
30
episode.
seconds.
We have brother at arms, Scott Wolter. We're going to get deep on a whole bunch of subjects. Share. Welcome, everybody, on Ops Lens. And, of course, those listening on iHeartRadio and listening on Spreaker. Thank you so much for being here. Ron Phillips, 15 seconds.
15.
He wanted to tell me that, so I felt it.
800-761-9334. 800-761-9334. That's 800-761-9334.
Journey into the matrix of the mind. Stretch your imagination and challenge reality. Abnormal realities are beacons for the imagination. What society deems abnormal may be more real than we think. This is Abnormal Realities with your hosts, Ron Phillips and Rocky Stucci.
You know, last night I was sitting around the fire. Actually, this is a really big candle. Don't judge me for that, but it was a really big candle. And I tried doing something like this type of, I'm sitting here and manifesting thoughts and mind stuff. And it
He
didn't
sends
work.
me this video. It's real dark, got a flame from his tiki torch going in the background.
Yeah.
And I could barely understand him.
What?
I'm pretty sure he was drunk, but I'm not sure of that.
Dude, you told me it was really good.
I did. I said that because you were high or drunk or something.
Thanks, Ryan. That's what brothers do. We look out for one another. Hey, really quick before we kick off, Romika Designs, this broadcast is brought to you by
Romika Designs. We do laser engraving, cutting, custom creations. You can find us at romikadesigns.com on Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, at Romika Designs.
Yeah,
We
busy.
We got a great show tonight.
Yeah,
dude.
I don't want to waste any more time.
No, let me go ahead and introduce our guest tonight. We have special guest Scott Wolter. He is a forensic geologist, author, and TV host. Scott is known best as the host of the series America Unearthed. In addition to investigating and dating ancient artifacts, Scott was involved in analyzing fire damage to the concrete at the Pentagon after 9/11. He has even helped the Las Vegas police investigate a homicide where a victim was found buried in concrete. Ooh. He is the author of several books on geology, the Knights Templar, and theories related to pre-Columbian contact.
Yeah, he is.
So, ladies and gentlemen, join us in welcoming our buddy, Mr. Scott Wolter.
Brother Scott. What's up, Scotty?
Oh, did we lose his signal already?
Oh, no. There he is. Oh, and he forgot one part, Scott, during the introduction. He did forget one part. And former semi-professional football player with the meatball, Scott Wolter. What's happening, brother?
Oh, I'm doing great. And you're right. You know, those years we played in the MAFL were, I mean, it was kind of crazy. You know, it was super intense, but it was really fun. And I'm really glad I got to do it. Glad I got to do it with you.
Yes, sir, man. I tell you, I'm one of those guys that age is just a number, and I don't just say that to try to accommodate my feelings.
I feel my age every damn day.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I do.
You kind of do when you go up the stairs.
I do. I'm very breathing heavy.
But I honestly, I don't lie. I say it. My dad still says it. My dad's 74. I still think I got a good season left of me until we get to that first practice and we run. And then things change.
You know what? I play a little ball, and if somebody asked me to play, you know what? I would probably give it a shot. Probably not a good idea, but I'd probably do it.
That's right. So, Scott, brother, I know, man, you're busy. You're busy. And before we even go get into this, I would just personally, on behalf of Ron and myself and so many people listening right now across the country, the world, brother, we thank you for the endless hours of work and research and dedication into so many different topics that play a pivotal part in America's history today. We're grateful and honored to have you today.
Oh, well, listen, thank you so much. And, you know, I guess the one thing that I want to say is, you know, I don't do this in a vacuum. I'm not the only person that does this. And, you know, I feel guilty sometimes because I get all the credit because I'm the guy that's on TV and everybody associates, you know, this research with. And you know, I appreciate that, but if you had any idea how many people that help us, and my wife Janet, I have a whole host of really smart people that I spend a lot of time bouncing ideas off. Does this make sense? Am I full of it here? What do you think? I mean, I love my own ideas, but sometimes I'm not right. And fortunately, I have people that will give me critical feedback that I trust. And there are times I get out on a limb where I probably shouldn't be, and they help pull me back. So, and the other group of people that have helped me immensely in this is other brothers in the craft, in Freemasonry, because a lot of the research that we end up talking about and researching has to do directly with Freemasonry. And certainly Freemasons have played a huge role in not just the founding of the country, but laying out of our cities and a lot of other things that have been involved with the creation of what we now call our United States of America. The Freemasons have been intimately involved. So it's a natural place for me to go, and they've been extremely helpful.
You know, Scott, when you reference the Freemasons, you know, that is one thing that when people go out into everyday society, they're not actually seeing all the signs and the symbols that we're literally surrounded by in regards to the craftsmanship and the creation of this country, especially through the Freemasonry. Right. Do you see that? Let's say you go to Washington, D.C., and you start walking around Washington, D.C. Are there not symbols of Freemasons literally everywhere around Washington, D.C.?
Hell yes, it's everywhere. I mean, you know, we have a phrase in the craft called, you know, those with the eyes to see. And it's basically becoming initiated into the esoteric knowledge that is all around us. And it's like anything else. I don't care what you're talking about. Once you understand what to look for, all of a sudden you see it everywhere. Yeah. I'll give you a good example. You know, you look at artwork, you look at statues, paintings and such, and sometimes you'll see a symbol or a hand gesture like this.
That's what I saw. That's what I saw in the episode I was watching.
Right.
And you pointed out all of the M's, and I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, and now you can't not see it.
I can't not see it. That's correct.
Exactly. And, you know, it's something that's literally hidden in plain sight. For the audience, I would challenge you, just go on Google Columbus, and you'll see a painting of him, and he's got his hand on his chest like this. And it's so obvious now that I've told you, but if you've seen this picture, you never noticed it before. And now that you're aware of it, you start looking at all kinds of other artwork, and it'll jump out at you. And what it tells you is that the artists were initiated and probably belong to a secret. This was an important symbol.
So I Googled Columbus, and the first picture that came
up is the one with his hand.
Was that picture.
Exactly.
So that's going to be like our sign when we see each other now. We just got to kind of be like.
You got to get those two fingers together there,
Yeah.
Rocky. Come
Oh
on, man.
well, I've been practicing the Star Wars thing for so long now. I gotta sit there and train. And
Yeah,
do that
yeah,
there.
it's
Well, that's
opposite of
Star
that.
Trek, man. That's Star Trek.
Oh yeah,
That's-
I get that
that's
confused
Spock.
too.
Yep. That's
So-
actually a shin, a Hebrew shin.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Didn't either.
See,
Now I
this
know,
has been a
though.
great couple days for us.
Oh
Phillips.
yeah, this is going to be a great show.
All right, so Ron got a hold of me the other night when I told him that you were coming on the show, and he was extremely excited. And so right away he goes and he starts, watching some of Scott Wolter's videos, and he went right to the video that you're referring to, Scott, in regards to the hand
M sign. It's called the M sign.
The M sign.
Yeah.
Can you bring us on that journey, brother? Tell us about that, and historically, where does that start?
And the hooked X and how all of that kind of
Right.
flows. Yeah.
Well, the journey for me started with the Kensington Runestone, which is an artifact that was found in 1898 by a Swedish immigrant farmer who was clearing trees in preparation for farming. And he and his two oldest sons tipped over this 30-year-old aspen tree, and wrapped in the roots was this 202-pound stone that had a long inscription carved in runes, Scandinavian runes. And of course, it was an amazing discovery. The scholars were stumped by it. They knew that it was, carved in runes, which many people automatically associated with the Vikings, because the runic language, or the runic alphabet, does go back to the Vikings, but it continued on all the way up until actually the late 1800s. They were still using runes in parts of Sweden. But over time, the alphabet changed, the symbols changed. And on this stone, there were a lot of symbols they just couldn't make heads or tails of. One of them was, the hooked X. And
Right.
so when I started doing the work, I'm a geologist. I do forensics for a living. And my job initially was to try to figure out, is the weathering of this inscription old and possibly consistent with the date that's on the stone, which is 1362, which I might add is 130 years before Chris, that guy that didn't set foot on the continent, that
Yeah.
already had millions
Yeah,
of
that
people
one.
living here.
Mm-hmm.
That guy? So, of course, that was a huge thing. And we're talking about this runestone was found in the center of the continent, the geographic center of the continent. So they did, and frankly, now looking back, well, let me finish the geology part. I did a weathering study where I compared the weathering of the inscription with Revolutionary War era tombstones that have the date right on them. And I concluded that the weathering was older than 200 years. And that's from the date it was pulled out of the ground, because it hasn't been in a weathering environment since. So a lot of the stuff that we do in forensics boils down to simple logic. And the logic is this. It's either a late 19th century hoax, as everybody claimed for the last 100 years,
Right.
or it's not. What else have you got, right? Well, the geology told me that a late 19th century hoax was impossible. So therefore, the only other conclusion that you have is it must be genuine. And that's what I said. And the reason is I trust rocks. I don't trust some people, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh yeah, we know what you mean.
yeah, I know you know what I mean. Anyone walking on the planet knows what I mean. But anyway, the point is this, is that the rock told me it was real. I trusted the rock. Therefore, somebody carved it.
Mm-hmm.
They came from some place, and they came here to the center of the continent for some reason. And so those were the next questions that I started to investigate. And frankly, guys, the evidence trail led me straight to the island of Gotland in Sweden, where there were 99 churches that were all Cistercian. What are Cistercians? Well, they were the white monks that founded a military order called the Knights Templar. And so my getting to the Templars, some people say, oh yeah, the Templars isn't that convenient. Well, no, it's not convenient. It's a fact. Okay.
Yeah.
And all the language, all the runes, all the dialect, all the stuff that was supposedly a problem, I found on that island. And so I knew that forensics and logic told me that if this thing is real, then everything in that inscription has to be consistent with the 14th century, including that crazy hooked X symbol that was being used for the letter A, that the scholars said, we've never seen this before, so because we haven't seen it, it must be a fake.
Or in the church, in the episode that I watched, it was used in the Roman numeral 10 or 10.
Correct.
Yeah.
And what that tells you is that it's not a fixed thing.
Correct.
That it's a symbol that represents something else. So at that point, once I made the connection to the Templars, I started to look into their ideology. What are they all about? Because once you understand what a group of people, how they operate, how they think, then you can start to understand what they might do, right? And why would they want to come over here? Well, for crying out loud, talk about an easy evidence trail to follow. The Knights Templar were put down in 1307, right? Less than 50 years before the runestone, or what was it, 55 years before the runestone was found over here. And what happened was these guys were arrested, tortured, and burned by the Roman Catholic Church and the King of France, Philip the Fair. So we've got the monarchies and the Roman Church that are outlawing the Knights Templar. So if you embrace their ideology, and one of the amazing things that we discovered was that the ideology of the Templars was not Catholic. In fact, all they did was pretend to be Catholic. In fact, what their true ideology was, they embraced the feminine aspect of the Godhead. Now, here's another thing. Remember, this is all logic. This isn't magic. This isn't hocus pocus. This is simple logic. But if the Templars had come over here, at least after 1362, or 1307. In fact, they came over in the beginning of the 12th century and had been coming over here for 400 years prior to colonization, before they started to settle this continent. They interacted with who? The natives, the Native Americans.
Right.
Well, isn't it interesting if you understand the indigenous cultures, they're all matriarchal. They venerate the great goddess too. So they formed a strategic alliance. They became blood brothers, rituals together. They intermarried. And that is what allowed the Templars to operate. And when they brought their treasures over and hid them over here, gold and silver and relics meant nothing to the natives. But they said, hey, you're our brothers. If you want us to look after this stuff, we will. They did it for over 400 years until our founding fathers inherited the obligation directly from the medieval Templars and their descendants, their ideological descendants. And our founding fathers went up, recovered those treasures, and founded this nation. And you might recall, we fought a revolution against a monarchy, right?
Correct.
That was legitimized by the Roman Catholic Church. So do you see some parallels here? This is not rocket science, guys. This is logic. It makes sense. And, you know, another thing that you might not know, let me ask you this, Rocky. Did you know that the indigenous people of this continent have their own secret society, Freemasonry?
I had no idea, and I'm kind of embarrassed that I don't know that.
Well, don't feel bad, brother, because very few people understand this. It's called the Medewin, and you can look it up, and they've been practicing these rituals for thousands of years. And in fact, the rituals that we inherited in Freemasonry, for those that don't know, I'm a Mason. I'm also a York Rite Mason and Knights Templar and a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason. So I've had a full dose of the craft, and I understand it pretty well. I've also been in Medewin sweats. I have interacted with their medicine men. I have earned the right through the Sweat Lodge to ask questions about the Knights Templar. And when the time came, you know what he said to me? Oh, you mean our blood brothers?
Oh, see?
Oh, I told you.
Yep, I know you did. Wow.
Well, think about that one for a second.
Wow.
Scott, you know, here's one of my biggest frustrations. Ron and I were talking last night. We're outside in front of the studios here, and I went through this little phase actually was a very large phase in regards to forbidden history. What is your outlook, I guess the best word I can come up with real quick, in regards to why does modern society, modern governments, modern countries try to bury some history that could actually benefit societies today in regards to our growth, the evolution of the human species?
Why are they keeping it from us?
Yeah.
What is the purpose?
Well, the simplest explanation I can give you is that by telling us the truth, they lose power. I'm sorry to the Christians that are out there, but I'm just going to tell you, the Roman Catholic Church and the Jesuits that are out there doing their bidding are some of the most dangerous people when it comes to truth and, really making things the way they should be. And I'm going to just get heavy for a second here, but I'm just going to lay it on you. Okay.
Please.
And
Please do.
This is what it's all about. This is the problem that I have with any organized religion. What they require you to do is to go through a human conduit to get to Creator, right? And anytime you involve a human conduit, that's when you're going to have problems. I don't need to tell you about the problems of the Catholic Church. They've been their own worst enemy. In Freemasonry and in some of the other faiths or spiritual journeys that other people embrace, they understand that you don't need that human conduit, that you can have a relationship with deity, whatever you call it, however you want to venerate it, whatever you want to do. That is your personal relationship, and it's nobody else's business what you do and what relationship you have with your Creator. Now, if you find like-minded people that embrace a similar thought process, then it's great to get together and do it together. And if some people are happy doing it in church, doing it with the Roman Catholic, that's fine. But all I'm telling you is you don't need that human conduit. You don't need to be beholden to them to achieve salvation. You can do it all by yourself, and it's not hard. I don't know. That's it.
Boy.
It's deep, but I completely understand what you're saying. Some of the other things, and we're about 4 minutes before we have to take a break, Scott. So bear with us and hang with us.
No, this is good.
Yeah. But one of the things I thought prominent amongst all the other things in the episode that I watched the other night was that when Christopher Columbus came over here, all 3 ships were flying sails that had the Templar cross on them.
Yeah.
That was
why is that?
I had never noticed it before until you pointed it out.
Yeah. Well, and the names Nina, Pinta, and the Santa Maria have a lot to do with the ideology that I've been telling you about. But there's more. Now,
there was a lineage that they were trying to protect or carry on, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Absolutely. The bloodline, the people that we call the Venus families, who are the ones that financed and supported the founding of the Cistercians and the Templars. And they're still around to this day. And many of our founding fathers are part of that lineage. And, frankly, when the Templars were over here for 400 years, I told you about those pesky Jesuits. What a lot of people don't realize is that there was a secret war that went on this continent during that time because the Jesuits were hunting them down and trying to kill them because they had taken the bloodline that flowed in their veins and intentionally put it into their native brethren to protect it over here. And it might help you to understand better why the genocide happened after we started to settle this continent. And it continued right up until the early 1900s. You've probably seen the stories in the news about these Catholic-run schools in Canada where they're finding mass graves of children that were abused and murdered in these church-run schools. Now, I'm not here to try to blast the church. I'm just telling you the facts. You can decide if you think it's right or not, but I'm telling you that this is a continuation of something that's been going on for a long time. And we are still suffering from influence. I mean, why suppressing the history? Because they don't want us to know the truth, because the truth is going to ultimately be their downfall. And frankly, I think that we would probably be just fine if the church retracted and changed some of its practices. I think Brother Francis should step up. First of all, acknowledge the atrocities. That's the first part of turning the ship around and going in a positive direction. I don't mean to get too heavy with you guys, but I'm just answering the questions.
Oh, no, it's perfectly fine, Scott. I mean, it's perfectly fine. As a matter of fact, we want to get a little deeper with you when we come back from the break.
All right.
When it comes right down to it, the lineage that they're trying to protect, the bloodline that they're trying to protect, and the symbology that's all over this country that people don't even realize. I mean, I watched you whip out a dollar bill and count 13 a bunch of different times on the back,
right.
And people see it every day, but they just don't know what it means and why it's there.
Well, they see it, but they don't see it. And this is another example, Rocky, you said it, hidden in plain sight. Yep. We pull it out every day, a dollar bill, and buy our coffee, whatever. And that symbolism, it's loaded with it.
Yeah.
And all people have to do is just be aware of it, take the time. It's really cool stuff.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, Scott, deep is good. We like it. We're going to get deeper when we come back from the bottom of the hour break, folks. I'm telling you, my brother, Scott Wolter, if you guys don't know who he is, I don't think we can be friends. That's all I got to say about that. But when we come back, I know you mentioned something. Folks, I'm telling you really quick, Ron got a hold of me he was texting me at like midnight because he was doing all this research, watching all these episodes, and we go back and he starts bringing up Mary Magdalene. And now I got questions.
Oh, yeah. That's what I'm saying. We're going to go deeper into this.
Yes, we
because
are.
I want to hear Scott's story. I want to hear that.
Amen. Hey, folks, I'm telling you right now, you are watching Abnormal Realities. Adam Compton, good to see you, brother. Thank you all so much for hanging out with us. Scott Wolter on the program. Ladies and gentlemen, do not go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to get deep. Ancient history coming right to you. Stand by.
Hi, and thank you for listening. My name is Ron Phillips. All right, we're clear. Let me get back over here to Scott.
Yeah, Ron got a haircut, Thomas Becker.
I did.
Do I have time to pee real quick?
Yes, you do,
Yes,
brother.
sir.
Yes, you do.
All right.
All right, stand by. What's up, Travis Thorpe?
I guess I should have told him we were still
Yeah,
on
we're
Facebook.
still hot. Adam Compton said it was a Greek cross they used. Adam Compton, he's a friend of mine. He wears cowboy boots.
Oh, okay.
He knows what's up.
He knows what's up.
He knows what's up. That's my boy. That's right. That's right.
He knows what's up.
Yeah. Hey, I got somebody I can't even say where it's at. I got somebody working right now, Adam, but don't go check on them till 8 o'clock. So,
Back in 60.
Back
And
in 60.
I needed my mute person tonight because I forgot to unmute us right at the
I saw you
beginning of the
panicking
show.
over there with the
I
buttons
did.
and everything.
Yeah, I did. Forgot to unmute us, so we were dead on iHeart for about 3 minutes.
Scott Livingston, not sure it's a fact, would be interested in your source.
Yeah, which
boy.
is fine.
God, we got the Templar Society in the chat room tonight.
Hey, man.
Come on,
I
welcome.
want the conversation.
Yep.
Good, bad,
That's
indifferent.
right. That's right.
Bring it.
35 seconds. All right.
Let you know when Scott gets back in here.
No problem. I'll just bring us in and we'll just watch the screen there.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Coming back. 20 seconds.
Captain Gay Sock's cooking show. It's real food, real people.
Real Food, Real People can be heard every day on SpooningRadio.com at 7 p.m. and 1 a.m. Eastern, and anytime on Spreaker.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Abnormal Realities. My name is Ron Phillips, and this is Rocky Stucci.
How you doing?
We have a fantastic guest on with us tonight, Mr. Scott Wolter, and we're just going to get right back into it. Scott's back from his his trip there. So, welcome, Scott. Thanks for joining us tonight, man. We've already gotten kind of deep into some things, but Rocky's got some questions for you. It's going to dig us a little deeper. And guys out there that are listening to us and watching us, please, if you have comments, throw them in the chat rooms. We're on the YouTube Abnormal Realities page. Rocky's in that chat room. We're in the Facebook chat room.
Twitter.
Ask the questions, good, bad, indifferent. We want to hear about it. Rocky.
All right, so Scott, when Ron called me in the middle of the night the other night because he was so entranced in everything, he got the dose of Scott Wolter in his face, brother, right?
Oh, it was great.
And he was messaging me all this stuff, and then he brings up Mary Magdalene. He brings up Mary Magdalene. Most people were introduced to Mary Magdalene when the Da Vinci Code became a movie. That's, a lot of people actually didn't even know she existed unless, you're into theology or in any kind of history, right? I asked a guy today, really religious guy, and I just went and asked him, I'm like, so what do you think? And I'm not going to I'm a little raw, right, on how
he uses different phrasing than he's about to use now.
So I'm going to be professional on the show, but I says, what would be the issue if, let's just say, that Mary Magdalene and Jesus had a relationship? I just said, what would be such a bad thing? Because as religion progressed, that became a bad thing.
He was human after all.
Hey, he was a human dude.
Thank you.
Of course he was.
Yeah.
So what now, Ron, you were referring to, what was Scott covering in regard?
Mary Magdalene and Jesus have a bloodline.
Yeah.
Which means a child. Oh. Correct?
That would make sense. I would hope.
Scott, take us down this path, would you?
Take us home, brother.
All right. Well, you know what? Here's the way I like to approach this subject matter to sort of put it into context, okay? What do we have? 8 billion people walking on the planet today? Every single one of us have ancestors that were alive 2,000 years ago. That's a fact. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here, right? So why is it such a stretch to believe that these two people back in the first century, who absolutely were human beings, and I hate to break it to people, but Jesus was a smart guy and he had some special talents, but he was a dude like the rest of us. And why is it such a stretch to believe that these two people couldn't have gotten married? And married people sometimes have children. Not a big concept, not a tough thing. Right. And those children have children, and those children have children.
It's kind of simple to understand, right?
About those Venus families?
Yeah.
They're the descendants, and they understood this lineage. But the problem is when the church took over, and at the Council of Nicaea in 325, they took a bunch of the Gospels and a bunch of these religious writings, and they decided to create a new narrative that would work to their advantage. And some things had to be thrown out, and other things had to be embellished to create this fictional Jesus character that has grown. I can tell you right now, if Jesus was walking on the planet today and he saw what he had become based on the ideology that I understand that he embraced, he would be appalled. But this goes back to the fundamental questions that we talked about at the very beginning about controlling the narrative, about controlling what people think, what people believe, what they will do, what they'll do with their money. It's all about manipulation, power, and control. And it started early on, and they chose Jesus and Mary at a very important time in history that gets into a whole nother aspect. Because frankly, what I would tell you is that what's really important about Jesus and Mary Magdalene and John the Baptist and some of these other first century historical figures is not necessarily who they were, but when they were. Do you want me to explain that to you?
Yes, please, because I'm trying to think through this.
Okay. All right. So here's something that I want you to Google when you get time. It's called Precession of the Equinoxes. Okay? It's astronomical. Now, Rocky, as a Freemason that the invocation of the constellations of the sun, the moon, the planet Venus. It's all about what's happening in the heavens, right? The celestial and the terrestrial. As above, so below.
Yep.
Well, that's more true than anybody realizes. But what happens is ancient cultures for tens of thousands of years, forever, as long as man has been on the planet, have looked to the heavens, right? We don't do it that much anymore because we're too busy living our lives here and we got our heads down on the ground, right? But what's happening up there is really important. And one of the things that happens is on the morning of the spring equinox, when the sun rises, the zodiacal belt that contains the 12 primary constellations of the zodiac cycles through the eastern part of the sky. And on the morning of the spring equinox, when the sun rises, it goes through the primary constellation that's in that position just before sunrise. And when the sun goes through it, that's considered sacred. Now, that is called, there are 12 primary constellations. And because of the Earth's wobble, slight wobble, there's something called precession of the equinoxes. And slowly but surely, this zodiacal belt rotates around the Earth, but it's measured on the spring equinox at sunrise. So slowly but surely, whatever constellation is in the eastern sky will set below the horizon, and then another one will cycle through. And it takes about 26,000 years for this to happen. Now, this is not a theory. This is fact. This is astronomy, okay?
Okay.
Now, if you take 26,000 and you divide by 12, you get about 2,160 years. But the period of each age is not divided equally. It depends on the size of the constellation, and they vary in size. Scorpio, for example, is huge. Taurus is a huge constellation, and it lasted in the eastern sky about 2,700 years. This was during the time of the Hyksos pharaohs in Egypt, and the Apis bull worship was part of this polytheistic dualism religion that they embraced in Egypt. And then finally, that constellation set. The pharaoh who came into power at that time was a guy that we now know as Akhenaten. And he's the one that has the crossed crook and the flail on his chest.
Right.
His son was King Tut.
Yep.
And so when he came into power, he understood precession. And he knew that it was time to change the religion from polytheistic dualism to monotheistic dualism. That's what this symbol is on his chest. And if you look carefully, it resembles a hooked X because it represents an ideology. And that's what the hooked X represents. And it goes all the way back to Egypt and beyond. Now, the new age that came in was Aries the Ram. Aries is a small constellation. It only lasted about 1,400 years. And in fact, the cross, crook, and the flail on Akhenaten's chest represents the two religions. The flail herds the bulls, the followers of Taurus.
Right.
The crook, the shepherd's crook, herds the rams, the sheep of Aries, the new religion. And united on his chest represented his attempt to unite the two religions. But it failed. And so the minor pharaohs of Egypt rebelled against him because the Apis bull worship had become so ingrained in the Egyptian cosmology that they said, no, we're done with this crap. And you know that his statues and his structures have been defaced. So his people were driven out. They were called the Aryans because they were the Aries followers, right?
Right.
And that's what we now call the Exodus. And they fled and headed north. And eventually, when they found the right sun symbol, which is the seal of Solomon, that's where they built their temple. Now, let's go forward, okay? The age of Aries the Ram was very short. And that ended when the last pharaoh, grand master, if you will, of the age of Aries the Ram, somebody who's typically depicted wearing a wool shawl. A wool comes from sheep. often carrying a shepherd's crook with a lamb in his arm or a lamb in his feet. Who am I talking about?
You're not talking about Moses, are you?
I'm talking about John the Baptist.
Oh, John the
John
Baptist.
the Baptist. Okay, gotcha.
And
I knew that. I knew that.
I didn't know that.
And who did he baptize? Initiate? Some guy named Jesus, right?
Yep.
Who was born of the Lamb of God. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
You know what that means? He was born in the last 4 years of the age of Aries, the ram, the lamb, right? And then he becomes the new pharaoh, the new king, the new leader of this ideology in the new age of Pisces the fish, right? If you're a follower of Jesus, you're a follower of the fish. So am I starting to make sense, guys?
Yes. Yes, you
Yes,
are.
actually.
Okay.
What the
Now,
hell?
here's where it gets good. Now, how long has it been since Jesus and John the Baptist time?
2000,
What year is it?
2021.
Okay, I'm a little confused. I'm got a lot of information going through my face right now. Okay, I got to absorb all this.
Okay, so it's been about 2,000 years, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the song by the Fifth Dimension, "The Dawning of the Age of Aquarius"?
Yep, I'm
Yeah.
an Aquarius.
Oh, you are?
I
Okay.
am, yeah.
So did you know that the symbol of Aquarius is the feminine water bear, right?
Correct.
The goddess.
Yeah.
It's two rivers coming together, flowing as one. People are to come together. The ideologies are supposed to come together during this time. Do you remember in 2012 when we were all worried about the end of the world?
End of the world, yeah.
Right?
The Mayan calendar. Yeah.
And the reason is the Mayan calendar documents precession. And the age of Pisces is ending right now. And the new age is starting, which is Aquarius. But there's something even more profound than that. It isn't just the end of another age, if you will, of the 12 in the precessional cycle. What we are living through right now is the end of the 12 great year cycle that's 26,000 years long. Think about that. We are living through right now one of the most profound moments in human history, and what has been prophesied by the ancients. You can take it or leave it if you want. But they said, as we make this transition, we are going to go through a period of turmoil. Well, for Christ's sake, if you can't agree that we're going through turmoil,
Yeah,
I'm
no
not
joke.
talking about politics.
Yeah.
Look at the fires that are raging.
Yep.
We got pandemics that are going on.
Right.
The world's a mess, right? And so this was all predicted. And it has to do with precession. And if you go back even further, the pyramids and the Sphinx, the original head of the Sphinx was a lion. It was recarved about 4,000 years ago. And it dates back over 10,000 years. It dates back to a time when the Sphinx that looks directly to the east at the constellation that was sitting in the eastern sky back at that time, guess which constellation it was staring at?
You're up.
No, you're up.
Leo, the lion.
The
It
lion.
was staring at itself. As above, so below, right? There you go.
This whole tying things together is blowing my freaking mind. What is going on right now?
I had so many questions, and it's like I got the information overload thing going on right now.
I do too a little bit,
Okay.
but I'm sure you
Rocky,
get
let
that
me
a
ask
lot
you
though, right,
something.
Scott?
Yep, come on.
If that makes sense, does that make sense?
It does.
Yes, it makes absolute
100%.
sense.
So let me ask you this though. So when you talk about this now, I know I can't feel my face. I'm just saying I can't feel my face right now. I mean, when I look at, okay, so the other day, this is the beautiful thing on this show, Scott, is that we talk about everything. Right?
Yeah.
So I brought up the seeding theory about did humans get seeded on this, or we entertain that conversation. Oh, don't roll your eyes at me, brother. You got shut up, Ron.
No. Rocky, stop, brother. Let me tell you something. Okay,
Come on.
I'm going to hit you guys with something else. I don't
boy.
think you've heard this. I've talked about this on the radio a few times, but this is a true story. Okay, about a year ago, I got a call from the Department of Defense.
Oh.
Not kidding.
Anytime you start a sentence with that
Yep.
or a story, I am so in, dude.
Yeah. No, put us back on the screen. Put us back on the screen. Scott, when you said that, me and Ron both went like, oh, wait. What?
Hey, you know what? I got a contract there, some swampland in Florida.
Holy
Ron, are
crap.
you interested? No, I'm kidding. I'm just teasing, brother. No, but seriously, I got a call from the Department of Defense, and basically they asked me if I would be willing to help with disclosure.
Oh.
Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Absolutely we do.
Which they didn't do a good job of this month anyways.
Well, let me know. Well, they did and they didn't. Okay. First of all,
That is important. That is significant, what he just said, by the way.
if they did they release everything that they know? I mean, hell no. Not even close.
No.
Right.
Was it a start? Yes, it's a start. You want to know the truth? Part of the problem that
if that was a rhetorical question, I'll answer it anyway. Yes, we want to know.
I knew you'd want to know. Part of the reason is that the church is holding back. They are not ready to tell their followers the whole truth. And the reason is obvious, because a lot of people are going to go, oh, well, if there's aliens, then what are we talking to you guys for? Maybe everything you've been telling us isn't true. But getting back to what you said, Rocci, about seeding, in our discussions, and we have had hundreds of hours of discussions. I have met personally with this individual. He's a good friend. And I believe the things that he's shared with us. And I take this responsibility very seriously. There are some things that we should all be concerned about, but there are be excited about.
Okay, Scott, hang on just a second.
The truth of the matter is,
hang on just a
second. We got a lot of work to do.
There we go.
You broke up just a little bit right in the important part of that sentence where you said there are some things we should be concerned about, and then you started breaking up. I'm a little worried about that in and of itself, but tell me again what you just said.
Well, what I said was there's some things that we have to be concerned about, and there's some things that we should be optimistic about. And the stuff that we should be concerned about are really staring us in the face. We all know about it. The ETs, they don't like the way we treat each other. They're disappointed in us. They don't like the racism. They don't like the misogyny. They don't like the divisiveness. They look at us as all their children, as we are all one species. Yep. Well, I hate to break it to you, but we are. Yep. And all I know is it doesn't matter what color you are, what creed you are, if I took and cut my hand right here and everyone else did, we'd have the same color blood, right?
Yep. Correct.
And I think we need to remember that a little bit more. The other thing that they don't like, that we have to be concerned about, is that we are destroying our own planet. Now, the time for debate of this is over, okay? Let's just knock off the bullshit and all accept the fact that we are killing this planet. This is our home, but it is also their home. The other thing that they said to us is that the earth is one of the crown jewels of the universe. It is teeming with life. And it's not just plants and people and animals, it's the rocks and everything else. And some people say, what the hell does that mean? Well, anybody who's a gardener who has done anything with plants understand nutrients come from the soil. Soil is made from decomposing rock. So is the connection between life that we think about and the earth. The fact is, it's all one living thing. And what they will not let us do, the ETs, is destroy this planet with nuclear weapons, because that will destroy this planet. And the other thing that you have to keep in mind is we are not an isolated ball going around the sun with a bunch of other planets. We're part of an interstellar community in the universe. And this is an important place because of this life, Very few planets are out there like what we have, and we're screwing it up. But they will not let us destroy it with nuclear weapons. They have interceded many times, and they will continue to do that. But they will not save us. We need to save ourselves, and we're at a tipping point. So we need to come together as a species if we want to make it. Because going back to your original statement, Rocky, about being seated, this is language that I have heard before. In other words,
thank you.
Those who came before us didn't do a very good job, and they let them go. And right now we're at a critical juncture, and if we screw it up, too bad. They're pulling for us, but they're not going to save us. That I can tell you.
I have to ask the question, Scott, and I'm sorry for asking it this way.
No.
Do we know who these people are, these beings? Do we know, are they with us now? I mean.
Yes, they walk among us. You know the almond-shaped guys, you know, the ones that everybody thinks of as ETs? They're not the ETs. Those are biological drones that are made by the ETs.
What the hell is going on right now?
All right. So Scott, so
I'm just telling you what I've been told, and I said to Holden, my contact's name is Holden, and he's a super great guy. And you know, it's like when people think about, they hear me say, "Well, a guy with the government," it's almost like he's this shadowy figure that wears black clothes, and no, he's just a dude. He's an amazing guy, and I can't say enough good things about him and what it's done for me, because at first I thought this is crazy talk. And that's why he came to see us and convinced us that he was who he said he was and that his mission was true. And he showed us the evidence. And so that's what got me on board, and I'm ready to talk about it. You know, he wants to be optimistic. And I want to be optimistic. And the only way we're going to get this thing turned around is if we talk frankly, succinctly, and just get right after it.
Well, yeah. And Scott, now more than ever, and I do a morning show with a guy who, and he and I agree, if a spaceship landed on the front lawn of the White House right now, we'd all look at it on TV and go, huh, okay. It wouldn't surprise us anymore. So the disclosure, if that's in fact coming to a point where we all then learn what's going on so that we can make a difference, so that we can understand what's going on and try to help ourselves, so to speak, is that coming? I mean, is there more of a disclosure on its way? What's going on there?
Well, you know, well, there is more disclosure coming, but I think and I made this mistake when I first started talking to Holden about this. I was like, well, okay, show me a spaceship, show me a body. And he said to me, look, Scott, I could do that. But he said, you know, you could also say, well, you know, that's artificial. You guys made it. I mean, you know, I mean, the things that we could do now, you could make something that looked like a spaceman or an alien. Special effects. How would you know? Now, but on the other hand, what he told me, which I found very convincing, and in fact, we can all do it. The way that they communicate is they don't sit there and talk like we do. It's all done telepathically. And there's this thing called collective consciousness that they understand. And that's the world that they live in. That's how they operate. And it's going like this, right? And we are primitive, right? We verbalize, and sometimes we can't even speak, you know, so another person can understand. But we have the ability to communicate with them. Mm-hmm. We can call them in, and they'll come if you do it correctly and if you do it sincerely. And it's called a CE5 experience, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. Yep. And it has to do with this collective consciousness, that we have this innate ability. It's inside of us. We just don't know how to use it. And so I see some tremendous opportunities here. I think it's exciting. And they're just waiting for us to reach out to them. And if we do it in the right way, they'll come. Yeah. And they would love nothing more than for the human race to get its shit together and be part of the interstellar universe. I don't know how else to say it.
I would actually enjoy the same thing.
Absolutely.
The same kind of consequences.
Yep.
Now, Scott, we have 3 minutes left here. My God, I didn't know we were going to go down this road. I got so many questions. There's so much we got to talk about.
Holy crap.
All right. So really quick, though, there was a question in Twitter that I just want to throw at you real quick. But, when you research abductee cases, anytime that there was some kind of communication from the alien, let's just use that term, alien, to the human being, there was never no lip movement. It was
all telepathy.
It was all telepathy. They never seen any. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's exactly what Scott's saying. Now, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm talking too much. There was a question here on Twitter, and we're gonna just skim the surface because you have big things coming up. But the question on Twitter was, how do you feel about Oak Island?
Well, I'm just going to say, I've said the same thing since day one. There's no treasure there. And I think after 8 years, they've proven that that's probably the case. And I would just tell people to enjoy it as a TV show and not get your hopes up.
And what do you have coming up for your followers, your research? What's going on in Scott Wolter's world right now?
Well, there's a lot going on right now. Masonically, I have a lot of lectures that are coming up. And one of the things that I've been trying to get the craft to do is to open up a lot of these lectures more to the public than just keep them in-house. I mean, let's face it, the truth is, there's no secrets that we have in Freemasonry that are going to change the world. I hate to tell you, we're not part of the Illuminati. We don't have the world secrets. We don't run the world. If we do, I'm not part of it. They didn't tell me. Maybe I'm not worthy or whatever. But I think that the information that we have that does dovetail with Freemasonry is important for the public to hear. And frankly, I think the more open we are, the better chance we have of getting more brothers to join. And there's also opportunities for women. Personally, I don't think there's anything that we do in Lodge that the ladies can't handle, but it's a tradition that is a fraternity, and I'm not here to try to change it. But, I think it's a wonderful thing. Its history is well documented, and I think that there's good things coming. We also might possibly have a TV show. Now, this is a very fickle business, so I'm not going to make any predictions.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We're sorry we ran out of time, but we want to have you back. Rocky, take us out, buddy.
Hey, Scott, man, I love the hell out of you, brother. Stick around for 1 second,
stay around.
Scott.
Stay there, Scott.
Folks, hey, thank you all so much for hanging out on Abnormal Reality radio program. Ron Phillips, I am Rocky Stucci. The website will be ready by this weekend. It's my fault. It's my bad. Scott Wolter, follow him, like him. He has big work coming up for all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Until
what a
tomorrow
great
night.
show, man.
We love you guys. Good
Love
night,
you.
everybody.